All right, guys, hope you're having a great day. We've got day 7 today, and I already did these problems. I just want to talk through them really quickly. It just says to provide 3 possible solutions. And so if you have x less than or equal to -7, that's any number that's less than or equal to -7. So -8, -9, -10, and counting down the number line on the negative side. Be careful about this one. Remember, the x is not on the left, so I want you to cross this out and flip it. So we're talking actually anything that is bigger than -3. So -2, -1, 0, and it continues up the number line. I have 2 different inequalities here, both less than. So x is less than 2, so I put 1, 0, -1. Or x is less than -7, so any number to the left of that would also work. Number 4 means anything in between -3 and 9, so I just picked these 3 numbers, but any 3 numbers in between those will be fine. Less than -7 would be -8, -9, -10, -11, -12, etc. X greater than 6 would be 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. This one's a little bit tricky. Be careful because we're not including 3 or 5, so it strictly has to be in between those numbers. And you might think to yourself, I don't think there's 3 numbers in between 3 and 5. There's a bunch of them. Don't forget the decimals. So 3.1 is in between 3 and 5. Also the whole number 4. And 4.5 is in between 3 and 5. And any decimal that is a decimal at 3 or 4 would work. Let's do a couple of these together. We seemed a little bit confused in class yesterday, so let me try this one. Here I've got an inequality. I'm going to start by adding 1 everywhere. Remember, just keep the inequality symbol the exact same that you see it. 15 plus 1 is 16. When you divide both sides by 4, keep the inequality the same. Now I have another one. A lot of these have like 2 equations, or in this case inequalities, together that we're going to be working on at the same time. Just keep this sign the same. And -2 minus 7 is -9. Divide 3, x less than -3. So I have 2 numbers to go on the number line. I have a -1 and I have a +1, so make sure you put those in the right spot. -3 goes first and then 4. And for the -3, it's going to be an open circle, and I'm shading to the left. So I'm going to do open circle, shade. And for the 4, I'm going to do a closed circle and shade to the right. So I've got a closed circle here, and I'm shading this way. And since it's an OR problem, remember we put this on our note cards. ORs are supposed to look like this. They're supposed to have 2 sections. So that one's good, so I don't have to worry about all reals or no solution. All I'm going to do is I'm going to start by writing this section, which since it goes to the left forever, the first thing I'm going to write is -infinity. And it stops at -3 with a parentheses, and it's a parentheses because this is an open circle. Then I have a gap or a space, so since I have 2 sections, I'm going to write that fancy U thing. My next section starts at 4 and goes to the right forever, and the 4 has a bracket on it. And remember, parentheses always gets infinity. Let's try another one. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to add 15. -7x greater than, that would be 28. Remember, just keep this symbol the exact same. Now I'm going to divide by -7. Divide by -7. X, whoa, hold on. We're dividing by a negative. This means flip. Remember, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative sign, you have to flip your inequality, so it's actually going to go this way. Oop, I didn't flip it. This way. This symbol now is pointing this direction after you divide by a negative. Same thing happens after you multiply by a negative, if you ever do that. So that would be -4. Okay, now let me do this one. I'm going to add 4. This one looks like it's a little bit more simple. 2 plus 4 is 6. So I have 2 numbers. The -4 goes first and the 6 goes next. This -4 has an open circle and it's shading to the left, so it's going this way. Open circle, shade. This one has a closed circle and I'm going to the right, so I'm going to close it and shade right. And again, this interval notation is going to look just like this one. I have a section that goes to the left forever, so that means I'm going to start at -infinity. And remember, infinity always gets a parentheses. And you can just double check my work here. This is a closed circle, so I put a bracket. Remember, there's a little gap here after the -4 with a parentheses. That means put your little u. And the 6 is where it starts again and goes to infinity. Let me just do a couple more, and then we will try some in class together. Let's look at this one. This one looks a little bit different because we have two different inequalities. I'm just going to leave it all smushed together, and I'm going to have two different sections that I'm working on. I want to get the x by itself, so I'm going to first start by subtracting 2 from everywhere. Since we have two different kind of equal bars, I'm going to leave them all together. I just have 6x in the middle because the 2's are gone. I'm going to leave this symbol exactly the same, and I'm going to leave this symbol exactly the same. Why am I not flipping it? Because I'm only subtracting. I'm not dividing or multiplying. So only when you divide or multiply will these symbols flip. Otherwise, they stay the same. So when I do -10 minus 2, I get -12. And when I do 20 minus 2, I get 18. Now I'm going to divide by 6 everywhere. So I get my x all by itself. So I got -2 over here. Keep the symbol the exact same. I divided by a +6. So this symbol stays the same, and this one stays the same. I just have x in the middle. The 6's cancel. And the way this reads, it means x is in between -2 and 3. So that's how I'm going to shade. I'm going to put -2, and I'm going to put 3. Closed circle here, open circle here. And exactly the way this is read, since this is all smushed together, that means to shade in between -2 and 3. So I just shade like this. So for my interval notation for this one, I do not do the infinities because I did not shade the arrows. My shading starts at -2 and it stops at 3. So I'm going to put -2, comma 3. Only thing we have to think of now is that since this is a closed circle, I get a bracket on the -2. And since this is an open circle, I get a parentheses on the 3. Let me do one more for you guys. This one seems pretty simple as well. I think only thing I have to do, I'm just trying to get x by itself, and I do have two different inequalities here all smushed together. This is called a compound inequality. And what I'm going to do to get x by itself is divide by 9 everywhere. And that's a +9, so there's no flipping happening. This sign stays the same, and this sign stays the same, so just recopy it. -27 divided by 9 is -3, and 81 divided by 9 is 9. And this is exactly the way the other one is. X is in between -3 and 9. So I'm going to put -3 and 9 on my number line. It looks like the 3 has an open circle and the 9 has a closed circle. And I'm shading in the middle. And there's no infinities again. So this one's an easier one. I'm just writing -3, comma 9 because my shading is in between there. And all you have to think about is which one gets a parentheses and which one gets a bracket. And we've got a parentheses on the 3 because it's an open circle, and we have a bracket on the 9 because it's a closed circle. Try those bottom two and get them checked by one of us. You guys, love you all. Thank you for watching.